Hello, my name is Cassandra Frank, and as a strong believer in constructionist theory, I am here to present the idea that teaching mathematics to our students should be an experience and not simply a regurgitation of predetermined algorithms. The main concept of this PLC is taken from an issue of the What Works? Research into Practice publication, this particular one entitled Learning Mathematics versus Following Rules, the value of student-generated methods distributed by the Ontario Ministry of Education and the Literacy and Numeracy Secretariat. As well, many points being discussed today have also been drawn from other What Works issues, such as student interaction in the math classroom, stealing ideas or building understanding, and also problem-based learning in mathematics, a tool for developing students' conceptual knowledge. First of all, let's look at a little agenda for this presentation. First, we'll take a brief look at some key ideas from each of the articles mentioned previously. Next, the layout and desired outcomes of the proposed activity and assessments. After that, a brief explanation of the 4 stages of the inquiry process based on the suggested activity. And finally, a concise summary of reasons to implement problem-based learning in your classroom. Research tells us that most, but not all children will, with extensive practice, eventually learn to use traditional algorithms with some competence. This skill often comes at too great a price, for students learn to ignore their own reasoning in favor of following rules. Students who are encouraged to experiment with their own solutions to mathematical problems develop a significantly deeper understanding of mathematics. Problem-based learning involves a classroom environment in which students are allowed to work in ability-based pairs or groups in order to solve a proposed problem, while the teacher acts as a facilitator and guide during this exhibition of student-centered learning. The majority of research examining problem-based learning focuses on its use in medical schools, with the key features being A, the use of collaborative small group work, B, a student-centered approach, C, the teacher as facilitator, and D, the use of real-life problems as the organizing focus. We also know that problem-based learning is a promising approach not only to build mathematics understanding, but also to test the student's conceptual knowledge. With that understanding in mind, let's look at the proposed activity, assessments, and desired outcomes with regards to this specific PLC meeting. All grade 3 level teachers and/or the primary division teachers should be part of the PLC meeting. Also, you may want to think about having your principal and/or vice principal present as well, so that they know what's going on and you know you can count on them for support. Meetings will occur bi-weekly or as often as needed in order to have the teachers and principal or vice principal share sufficient data and observations with the rest of the group. Students will be divided into ability-based pairs or groups, no more than 4. The teacher will present a mathematical problem and instruct students to work as a team to come up with a solution, following the 4 stages of the inquiry process, which we'll discuss later. Each group will be supplied with half a sheet of chart paper and some markers. Students are expected to work through the problem and use the chart paper to show their work. If they perform a miscalculation or come to a dead end, students are to simply cross out their previous efforts and start again. Manipulatives such as marble counters, tens blocks, or geometric shapes should be accessible, but your students will know if they need to use these items or not, so don't push. Remind the students that everything must be recorded somehow on the chart paper, all of the steps that they took. At the end of the allotted time, roughly 30 to 40 minutes depending on your group, students will fill out a self-evaluation sheet and answer standard questions in their math journals, either on a pre-made question sheet or as a freehand entry. To help keep the data and the research as free and unobtrusive as possible, each teacher on the PLC should become a guest teacher in one of the other teachers' classrooms. That way, the guest teacher can fill out a classroom observation checklist or an evaluation, and you get another sense of how another teacher runs things. Be sure to talk to your principal and vice principal, though, to ensure that you have coverage for your own classroom. Student work samples as determined by the classroom teacher, teacher observations and anecdotes, as well as student and guest teacher evaluation sheets, can all be seen as methods of assessment. Students will gain confidence in their problem-solving abilities. It will foster an increased awareness and understanding of mathematical concepts and big ideas. There will be an overall improvement in attitudes toward studying math, metacognition and organization of thoughts, both collaboratively and independently, and continual development of self-regulation and self-assessment skill sets. At the heart of problem-based learning lies a set of guidelines known as the inquiry process. In her book titled Making Math Meaningful, Dr. Marion Small breaks down the inquiry process in the following 4 stages. Basically, at this stage, you just want your students to talk it out. They need to talk to each other to get their ideas out and figure out what information in their word problem is actually important to solving it and what information can be just disregarded. At this point, communication is key. The National Council of Teachers of Mathematics Standard states that instructional programs for pre-kindergarten through grade 12 should enable all students to organize and consolidate their mathematical thinking through communication, communicate their mathematical thinking coherently and clearly to peers, teachers, and others, analyze and evaluate the mathematical strategies and thinking of others, and use the language of mathematics to express mathematical ideas precisely. Peer discussion is important as it helps students to work through a problem, understand a mathematical situation, clarify their thinking, and reflect on their own learning. As a facilitator, you can prompt your students with questions like, "How did you get that? What made you think of doing it this way?" Or, "I've never thought of doing it that way before. Show me what you did again?" This way, your students feel more confident in their abilities and their solutions. Here, you are asking your students to choose a strategy that they think would work best for solving this particular question. In her book, Dr. Small actually provides what she calls a problem-solving strategy menu, or a list of the possible strategies that can be used to solve any number of mathematical problems. By having this list readily available in your classroom, students will be able to choose a strategy or strategies that they would like to try based on that particular question. Having the menu acts as a jump-start or springboard to get the students thinking about the problem. Act it out, use a model, draw a picture, guess and test, look for a pattern, use an open sentence, make a chart, table, or graph, solve a simpler question, consider all possibilities, make an organized list, work backwards, use logical reasoning, and change your point of view. This is finally the stage where your students get to actually start solving the problem based on the strategies they've chosen. Just be sure to remind your students that they have to record all of the steps they've chosen on their chart paper, and that if they've made a mistake, cross it out so that we can refer to it later. At this point, the activity is completed and the students are provided with the chance to reflect on the work they did during the session. They will be filling out their student evaluation forms, and they'll record their answers through their math journals. This is also a wonderful opportunity for selected students or groups to show and discuss their work with the rest of the class. Of course, it's up to the teacher's discretion whether or not this sharing will indeed supplement the learning of the entire class, so you need to be aware of your student demographic. Sample questions that the students can answer would include, "What did I need to figure out? What strategy did my group use?" and list all that apply. "How do I feel about this question and today's work period? And what can I do next time to help solve the problem as a team?" As they get into older grades, the students will become better at articulating their thought process, and their steps that they are using will come out more clearly as evidence in their writing. For now, these guiding questions are working to create a mathematical schema that will be subconsciously used as they hit high school and post-secondary education. Research tells us that teaching practices that emphasize student interaction improve both problem-solving and conceptual understanding without the loss of computational mastery. Benefits increase further when students share their reasoning with one another. Higher order questions are correlated with increased student achievement, particularly conceptual understanding. Written communication also plays an important role, as it allows for the creation of a more permanent record to track the progression of thought. It's slow enough to allow considered organization, reflection, and debate. It provides sensory feedback, or hand engaged in writing, which fosters better memory of material. It is a safer venue for shy students. It provides simultaneous engagement throughout the classroom, and is deliberate enough that students can focus on the details. According to Dr. Small, an example of a good question for this kind of activity would be one that requires a student to connect new ideas to previously learned ones, can be solved in many ways, often using different problem-solving strategies, has many possible answers, piques the student's curiosity, has personal meaning or relevance to a student, or has a creative element to it. By means of their student evaluation sheet and their reflection questions, students are able to continue to develop self-assessment techniques as they subconsciously measure themselves against the following criteria. Did I show all of the steps? Did I include reasons for the steps? Did I show the right amount of detail? Did I explain my thinking? Did I use diagrams to help me explain? And did I use the math language and symbols I was supposed to? Highlights of the key points from this presentation, as well as a breakdown of the activity that we were discussing, can be found in your participant package. However, in conclusion, there are some more concrete reasons why you should use this activity and begin to implement problem-based learning into your very own classroom. Math makes more sense, why it's needed in real life and how it's useful. Problem-solving approach provides the teacher with a better insight to the student's mathematical thinking, hence the chart paper and recording of steps. Problems are motivating when they are more of a challenge. Problem-solving builds perseverance and self-regulation. Problem-solving builds confidence, maximizes potential understanding, and allows for differences in style and approach. Problems can provide practice for both concepts and skills, and the problem-solving approach provides students with better insight into what mathematics is all about.